Sometimes Jesus doesn't do things the way that we think he ought to. And I think that was the case in the life of John the Baptist. John was a fiery preacher. He was a man who told the truth, even if it hair-lipped the governor. It did not bother him any at all, the challenges that came with it. And he had confronted old Herod with an adulterous affair that he was having, and it landed him in jail. Well, John was in jail for telling the truth, and he had been arrested and was rotting there, and the Bible tells us that he heard about what was going on with Jesus. And so it says in Matthew 11:2, now when John had heard in the prison the works of Christ, he sent 2 of his disciples and said unto him, art thou he that should come, or do we look for another? It's interesting to me that John sends and asks this question. He's the one that identified Jesus as the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. So it's kind of a strange question. But if you think about it, in his condition, maybe it wasn't such a strange question, because John's asking, I'm supposed to prepare the way for the Messiah. If you're the one, then why am I locked up? Isn't the Messiah going to establish his kingdom and be victorious over these enemies? All I've done is the will of God. I've told the truth. And Jesus answered and said unto them, go and show John again those things which ye do hear and see. The blind receive their sight, and the lame walk. The lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised up, and the poor have the gospel preached to them. So Jesus tells his disciples, and they come to him, they say, Master wants to know if you're the one. Are you the Messiah? Or do we look for someone else? And Jesus' answer is so interesting. He says, the proof is in the pudding. Look at what's happening. Dead are raised to life, blind see, deaf hear, the lame walk. In other words, all of these miraculous signs that Jesus was doing were specifically to point to the fact that, yes, he is the Messiah, the long-awaited Messiah of Israel. Go back and tell John that. And then he adds this line, and blessed is he whosoever shall not be offended in me. John was at risk of being offended by Jesus. And as we continue to read, we learn the rest of the story. John is not going to get out of prison. John is going to wind up being beheaded because of a nasty little plot with Herod and the girl of the woman that he has married. It's horrible what's going to happen to John the Baptist. But Jesus is not going to physically deliver John. He's not going to come and bust him out of jail. He's not going to come to his rescue. And he doesn't want John to be offended. Blessed are those who are not offended at me. In other words, yes, John, I am the Messiah, and you have done your job, and you have done your job well. The Bible tells us that John the Baptist was a burning torch, and torches burn themselves out, and that's exactly what happened with John. And Jesus' words, they help us to understand that sometimes we run the risk of being offended, because in his plan, in his kingdom, in his scope of doing things, he doesn't do things the way that we think he should. And I'm thinking that John thought maybe that he should get out of prison and join Jesus in his ministry, but that's not going to be the case. John's going to get a ticket to heaven quicker than everybody else. And so you and I, we need to really look at this and learn this lesson. Sometimes things don't work out the way we think they should, but beware that you don't get offended. Sometimes our plans, the way that we think something should happen, isn't the way that God's going to do it. But no matter what, we can always trust Jesus. God bless you. Have a great day.